According to a statement by Mali's media regulator, two French broadcasters, LCI and TF1, are suspended over allegedly using unverified statements.
When a leader truly has the support of his people, nothing else matters. Not foreign pressure, not international criticism, not even the weight of global powers. And in a continent where such unity is rare, something remarkable is happening. In the heart of the Sahel, three nations, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, have done the unthinkable. Despite being ruled by military governments, despite facing constant attacks from Western media, their citizens stand firmly behind them, shoulder to shoulder unshaken. Just days ago, Mali did something bold. The authorities suspended two major French broadcasters, accusing them of spreading false news about an al-Qaeda-linked fuel blockade. For many countries, this kind of move would spark outrage. But in Mali, the streets didn't erupt in anger, they erupted in celebration. Yes, celebration crowds cheering, people applauding the decision, citizens calling it justice. But why? Why would a nation rally behind such a controversial step? Why would people celebrate silencing international media? The answer reveals a deeper story, one of pride, betrayal, and a fight for sovereignty. Let's dive in. For those who missed the headlines, Mali has been trapped in a deep fuel crisis. A crisis that has slowly strangled daily life across the country, and it wasn't caused by the government, but by an armed group determined to bring Mali to its knees. For nearly 2 months, the al-Qaeda-linked group JNIM has been waging a shadow war against the Malian state, not through open battles, but through something far more crippling, a blockade, a silent, ruthless economic chokehold. JNIM fighters sealed off the major highways that fuel tankers use to bring petrol from Senegal and Ivory Coast. They kidnapped drivers. They burned more than 100 trucks headed for Bamako, and they made it nearly impossible for fuel to enter the country. The impact? Catastrophic. Schools and universities shut their doors. Hospitals struggled to keep lights on. Food prices shot through the roof, and entire communities were plunged into darkness. In Bamako, the city's usual soundtrack, engines, horns, the constant movement of a capital, has faded away. Now you hear footsteps, people pushing empty motorbikes across dusty streets, searching desperately for fuel that no longer exists. An entire nation slowed to a crawl, a population pushed to the edge. And yet, this is only one part of the story. According to Mali's media regulator, the French broadcasters crossed a line. They didn't just report the fuel crisis, they painted a picture of a country on the brink of collapse. The HAs accused them of using an alarmist tone, one that predicted an imminent collapse of the Malian state. Words that can spark fear, words that can shake public confidence and fracture social cohesion. And so, almost overnight, the two French channels, LCI and TF1, went dark across Mali. No signal, no broadcasts, no access. But why? Let's break this down. It's true, Mali is facing a fuel crisis. The blockade by JNIM is real and its impact is severe. But when the French media reported the story on November 9th, they added 3 very specific details. Details that immediately triggered alarm within the Malian government. Those details weren't just information, they were signals. Signals that, according to Mali, crossed from journalism into psychological warfare. And here's where everything gets interesting. The first claim was the most dangerous. According to Malian authorities, the French broadcasters suggested that Mali's military leader had banned the sale of fuel. Think about that for a moment. Fuel is already scarce. People are lining up for hours. Motorbikes are being pushed through dusty streets. Hospitals are struggling to keep the lights on. Now imagine hearing, right in the middle of all this suffering, that Colonel Assimi Goïta himself has banned fuel sales. What would the average Malian think? How would a parent stuck at home with no transport react? How would traders, students, taxi drivers respond? Anger, confusion, panic. This kind of claim could ignite frustration into fury, and fury into chaos. It could push people onto the streets. It could spark riots, clashes, and a complete breakdown of public order. And that's exactly what the government feared. But here's the problem. The French broadcasters didn't stop to consider the impact of their words. They didn't think about how such a claim, true or not, could set an entire population on fire. And the worst part, it wasn't even true. Mali's military leadership never banned fuel sales, not once. In fact, Colonel Assimi Goita has been doing the exact opposite, working non-stop to keep the country afloat during the crisis. Behind the scenes, he signed a new deal with Russia to import fuel under military protection. Convoys have already arrived, escorted by soldiers to prevent attacks. More tankers are on the way. Everything is being done to stabilize the situation, not worsen it. So that raises a critical question. Where did these French media houses get the idea that Mali's leader banned fuel sales? Why publish a claim that can't be verified? Why inject panic into an already fragile situation? Was it an honest mistake? A careless rush to publish? Or something deeper? We'll come back to that, because this is only the first piece of the puzzle. The second claim from the French media was just as alarming. They reported that the regions of Kayes and Nioro were completely under blockade. Now, here's the truth. Information from these areas is limited. What we do know is that Kayes and Nioro sit along the major supply routes, the same roads connecting Mali to Ivory Coast and Guinea. These roads are exactly where JNIM fighters have been attacking fuel convoys, burning trucks, and terrorizing drivers. So yes, the fuel blockade has disrupted life in both regions. Yes, movement is restricted. And yes, essential goods are struggling to reach the people there. But a total blockade? That remains unclear. There is no confirmed evidence, nothing that supports the absolute language used by the French broadcasters. And then came the third claim, the one that escalated everything. French media said the terrorists are now close to bringing down the capital, Bamako. That sentence sent shockwaves because they weren't alone. Other Western media outlets and so-called analysts echoed the same prediction, that Bamako was on the verge of collapse, that the capital was about to fall, that Mali's government was hanging by a thread. For Malians listening at home, this wasn't news. It was psychological warfare, a message designed to shake confidence, spark fear, and create the image of a country about to be swallowed by chaos. But was it true? Or was it another exaggeration? Another attempt to paint Mali as a failing state? That's where the story gets even more interesting. Now think about it. If you were a Malian living in Bamako, and you suddenly heard that terrorists were close to bringing down the capital, what would you feel? Panic instant, overwhelming panic. And if everyone in Bamako panicked at the same time, what follows? Chaos. Governments around the world understand this. They know how dangerous collective fear can be. When a population panics, public order collapses, rumors spread, desperation rises, and a bad situation becomes 10 times worse. This is exactly why most governments are careful, extremely careful, about what they reveal during a crisis. Not because they want to hide the truth, but because they want to prevent a nationwide meltdown. But the French media? They didn't hesitate. They didn't pause to consider the impact of their words. They released statements that could easily ignite fear across an already struggling city. And that brings us to the real question. Why? Why report information that could push an entire capital toward panic? Before we dive into motives, let's look at the people who matter most, the citizens of Mali. What do they have to say about all of this? Well, contrary to what the Western media say about how the military government no longer has the support of the people, the reverse is actually the case. You see, last week, due to the fuel crisis, foreign countries including the US, UK, and France announced that their citizens should leave Mali for safety reasons. Guess how the people reacted? They accused France, for instance, of trying to cause panic. One Malian citizen who is a teacher said, "On this subject, regarding France's call for its nationals to leave, I think it is simply to sow panic among Malians. I think this call is mainly aimed at causing panic. In Mali, we are not afraid. We will support any transition that improves our living conditions. Even if there is only one Malian left, we will fight for our cause to the end. We will fight to win this war." Another who is a traitor stated, "I don't see a problem if the collaboration is favorable to Mali. France can withdraw. Our wish is for them to leave. We don't like France. Let them go home." Yet another citizen who is a driver said, "If they say they're packing their bags, let them leave France, America, Germany. We don't need them. We want our sovereignty." We support President Assimi Goïta, and we want to strengthen our relations with Russia. Another resident stated, France's call for its citizens to return home, given the security situation, is meaningless. It is a way for France to suggest to the international community that we are incapable of ensuring our own security. As far as I am concerned, I say, good riddance. When some foreigners leave, it also reduces the number of potential targets and, indirectly, the financing of terrorism through ransom payments. We have been living with insecurity for more than 10 years. This reminder brings nothing new. To Malians, I say, do not be influenced by these warnings. Finally, another resident said, if they say they're packing their bags, let them leave. France, America, Germany, we don't need them. We want our sovereignty. We support President Assimi Goïta. These people were not paid to say this. They met on a regular day by a reporter who wanted to hear directly from the people of Mali. These are the people whom President Assimi is protecting from panicking, and they understand. This is clear proof that despite what the West says, the people support every decision that President Assimi has taken, including the suspension of the French media. Interestingly, this is not the first time that President Assimi has taken a decision like this. Back in August 2024, the Malian authorities suspended French channel France 2 for 4 months. The suspension followed the broadcast on January 20th, 2024, of a report on the security situation in Mali following the departure of the French military force, Barkhane. The HAC alleged that the broadcaster glorified terrorism by juxtaposing the firepower of armed terrorist groups with that of the Malian armed forces. It accused France too of trying to retrospectively justify the presence of the French Barkhane force until 2022, based on the severity of the current situation in Mali. Furthermore, France too was accused of serious breaches of ethics and professional conduct and for failing to provide the Malian authorities with an opportunity to speak on the issue. If you analyze this carefully, you would see the answer to the question we asked earlier. Why have these French media resorted to publishing news that they know would cause panic and likely make the people withdraw support from the military government? The answer is because the military government of Mali has distanced itself from the West and built ties with Russia. That's the only reason France in particular is still pissed that Mali kicked out French forces and ended the decades-long security partnership, which has not yielded any meaningful result. If you analyze the statement made by the military government regarding its decision to suspend France too, you would notice that it confirms our statement. In the Sahel, before they were kicked out, the US and French forces were there for more than 10 years. But under their watch, it's on record that the insecurity got worse. So, what then is the use of their presence? Clearly, it's not about eliminating insecurity, but restoring Western influence and control. And the reason why the French media publish such news is to convince the people of these countries that the military regime is evil and not competent enough to resolve the crisis. And this will create unrest and dismay among the people of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, which will eventually lead to the overthrow of the military regime. This is their ultimate goal. However, the military governments of the Sahel have been able to destroy their goal by suspending the media, a move which the people of Mali supports Western media may call it suppression of free speech. But guess what? The United States did the exact same thing some months back when it banned the Russian media house, RT, not just from the US, but also from Africa. You see, in recent times, African countries have begun to distance themselves from the West and turn it non-Western countries, including Russia. For some reason, the US thinks that the reason why African countries are doing this is because Russia is spreading false news about the West and Africa. So, to counter this news, the US decided to ban RT not just from the US, but also from Africa. But that's not all. The US also banned some African media outlets that it felt were spreading disinformation campaigns. Think about it. Is this not the exact thing that the military leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger did in their countries by banning Western media from spreading false information? Well, while Western media has termed the actions of Assimi Goïta as the suppression of free speech, that of the US was hailed as promoting the right narrative. How hypocritical. But that's not all. The actions of the US are even worse because the US actually committed the crime of suppressing free speech. Think about it. The US government has every right to ban RT and other African media outlets from the US because it's their country. But the US went ahead to ban RT from the African continent without consulting Africa. Who gave them the authority? Africa is a sovereign continent, so why would the US leave its territory and make a decision to ban RT from Africa? How does that even make sense? Doesn't that count as suppression of free speech? Yet, Western media did not condemn the move, and it simply tells us that the Western media is biased and influenced by Western governments. The actions of the US and Western media also confirm what we already know. The West is the biggest abuser of human rights and freedom. The West only thinks about human rights abuse when it comes to other nations. Anyway, this is why we say that the Sahel is fortunate to have the presence and leadership of President Traore, Captain Assimi Goïta, and General Chiani. These leaders are exactly what the Sahel and Africa in general need to prosper and break free from the shackles of the West. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, drop a comment, and share.